Welcome to Unit 3 in Being the Best Community Action Board training series. In this unit we examine planning, one of 4 board responsibilities specifically listed in the Community Services Block Grant legislation. This old-time bicycle can help us understand the board's planning activities. Really? This graphic is on the last page of your handout. The front wheel represents the multi-year or strategic planning cycle. Although it turns more slowly, this wheel moves the bicycle forward and determines its direction. The rear wheel represents an annual planning cycle. Each cycle consists of a repeated round of activities to ensure that plans are carried out, and the annual cycle repeats several times before the strategic planning cycle does. The board is like a rider on this bicycle who needs to understand the road she is on, have a map that describes the destination, and pedal steadily to move the bicycle down the road toward its goals. As the front wheel, that is, the strategic planning cycle, turns, the board engages in 2 important activities that carry the bicycle, in this case the Community Action Agency, into the future. Through community assessment, the board learns as much as possible about the road it's traveling on, that is, the community in which it works. How does the board go about this? First, it looks at the condition the road is in now. Perhaps the road is bumpy, filled with potholes because the local economy is suffering or unemployment is high. There might be a sign that says, "Steep hill, stay in your own lane." There will be information booths along the road, we know this, that have signs saying, "Stop here, we can tell you where you have been." The board will want to talk to people traveling on the road. Because it is an anti-poverty organization, a community action agency especially wants to answer the question, who are most in need and what do they need? Are they stranded at the side of the road? Have they been boxed into the slow lane? Have they not gotten enough education or training, or not the right kind? Do they have limiting health or other physical conditions? Are they underwater, in credit or debt? Have they made choices in the past that make them seem bad risks to employers? We also want to know whether some segment of the population has increased or decreased. Is the number of children under 18 increasing, or the number of seniors? Have working age adults left the community in significant numbers? Are there new immigrant populations in the community? And if so, what is their state and condition? As part of its assessment, the board wants to talk to leaders who may have plans for improving or reconstructing the road. Political and civic leaders, business leaders, education leaders all may have created or are in the process of creating initiatives for training, for education, for economic development, and they may have posted signs saying, "Construction ahead, prepare to go slow, and then fast." Perhaps chambers of commerce and civic organizations are, in effect, road crews going out to improve certain segments of the road or to maintain and fix it. With this variety of information available to it, the board needs to process it within a framework that makes understanding and planning, setting priorities, possible. Fortunately, the Community Action Network has created such a framework, the framework of the 6 national goals. You have 2 explanations of these goals in your handout. One of them includes 4 questions useful to ask when planning for each of the 3 major groups. What does each group want? What will it look like? if it achieves what it wants? What do they and we, the Community Action Agency, have to work with? And where and how can we produce the greatest benefit? The national goals and objectives provide us with ready-made categories so that we don't have to start from scratch when we're creating a strategic plan. This structure has proven over the years to accommodate virtually any activity a community action agency wants to undertake. Let's walk briefly through this framework. Each of the 6 national goals defines broad conditions community action agencies want to achieve. Goal 1, for example, is that low-income people will achieve self-sufficiency. That's a little vague. Maybe we want to have a more specific outcome in mind, and therefore the first objective under this goal is specific. It is that low-income people achieve employment. As employment is a little vague, we find that there are performance indicators with this objective, as there are for all other objectives in this framework. To understand whether employment or how employment has been achieved, there are at least 2 indicators that can be answered yes or no. The first is that an unemployed low-income person obtains a job. That's pretty specific and relatively easy to measure. A second indicator also is quite specific, and that is that an employed low-income person obtains a raise in income. So we see that from this study and placing the information within this framework of goals, objectives, and indicators, we can create a strategic plan, which is a roadmap to our future organizational destination. Having created that plan, the board can now power the organization down the road. As it pedals on the big wheel, it turns the little wheel through a repeated cycle of activities that makes sure our plans are being carried out. The first major set of activities in the annual planning cycle consist of evaluation of conditions during the year that need to be considered when looking at the following year. Because it has received regular reports, the board can determine whether budgets have been balanced, annual and strategic goals and objectives have or will be met. The board should engage in a risk assessment exercise to answer questions about the effect on the organization if something unanticipated happens, and in fact try to anticipate such instances and prepare plans for them. The board also takes into consideration changes in the community which will affect how it goes about its business. In addition to the results of these internal assessments, board committees need to stay informed about changes in laws, regulations, or contracts that may require revision to board procedures and policy manuals. Changes in circumstances, newly recognized risks, new opportunities, or new requirements may need to be incorporated into work plans and budgets, administrative cost and cost distribution plans, as well as funding requests, applications, or proposals, and policies and procedures that the board and the organization use to determine how business will be done. The last 2 activities in the annual planning cycle are board oversight functions. The board needs to be sure it receives 2 kinds of important information from the staff. There needs to be continuous feedback from management systems about whether services are being delivered to the people for whom they were intended, that services are being delivered on time or within deadlines established in contracts, that the results that were promised are being achieved or exceeded, and that mistakes and inefficiencies in service delivery are being identified. The board is not getting the right information if findings and deficiencies, questioned or disallowed costs, appear first in annual audits and program monitoring reports rather than in reports from the staff. The board should learn about problems and corrective actions from staff, not from auditors or monitors. The board must be confident that staff will catch problems early and move immediately to fix them. The annual cycle makes up most of the board's regular business. If one or more of these planning functions is neglected, the wheel of planning gets out of round. If the wheel gets out of round, the bicycle gets wobbly. If the bicycle gets wobbly, it falls over or goes in the ditch. Don't fall down or go in the ditch, please. This is the end of the third unit in being the best community action board. In future, we will look at the board's responsibility for mobilizing resources, safeguarding money and other assets, and ensuring programs achieve the desired results. Thank you for your time and attention, and thank you again for your service to this community action program.